Well, here we are. John, thank you for joining me for this conversation about NFTs. We're really grateful to have you be a part of NFT NYC coming up. Can you please introduce yourself to me and anybody that's tuned in?
Sure. My name is John Clippinger. I am currently a director at the Open Earth Foundation, also a research affiliate at MIT Media Lab, City Science Group. I've been there for a number of years. I'm sort of very excited to be finally get back to this NFT conference because was one of the early pioneers in this, in the sense when it wasn't cool. It was like, what are NFTs? Why in the world would anyone be interested in NFTs? I'm talking to Jody about that. So but you had to sort of be a true believer in those early days. And what got me involved in NFTs was actually a company set up. It was called Switch at the time, but now it's called ClearTrace. And we were setting up a company to do verification of the production of sustainable energy, particularly solar. And so you generate an NFT, basically to say this device at this point in time actually produced so many kilowatts of green energy. And that allowed you to get a renewable energy credit and then trade it in exchange. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago. So that was a little pretty on the bleeding edge of things, to say the least. But it survived that. And one of the things that came to my attention was that we were using the testnet and we couldn't get access to the testnet because CryptoKitties was there. And so what the hell is going on here? We're saving the planet and people are playing with kitties, you know? But that actually is a lead indicator of so the rate of innovation and what people were spontaneously doing. And my interest in part of my career, my background is in doing artificial intelligence. I've started a number of companies. I was just before MIT, I was at Harvard, the Berkman Center for 10, 12 years, I guess. And I'm very interested in sort of the science of living things. How do you design living things, self-organizing things? What does it mean for something to be autonomous? What does it mean for it to have agency? What does it mean for it to have a model of itself and other things? And so when you start thinking about NFTs, you start to thinking, well, actually living things, everything's not fungible in them. You know, you can't, the heart can't buy out the lungs, you know, it just doesn't work. So there is this new concept, rather than sort of clearing a market, but actually being able to create a balance between different kinds of asset classes that achieve some kind of outcome. And I was very interested in sort of how to pursue that. And when I was at Berkman Center, we did genetic algorithms, applied them to new kind of legal contracts. And I love the idea of generative design. Then I came across the work of Carl Friston. A lot of people don't know him in this world right now, but he's the preeminent neuroscientist of the world with 270,000 citations. And he's developing over a period of time a concept of active inferencing in Bayesian mechanics. And it's really a physics of living things. I said, wow. I mean, does this really work? I mean, is this, and he's so rigorous. He takes it all the way back to basic principles of physics and works it up to the present. So we started looking at that really hard. Can we design things that are sort of like any of an asset class that is autonomous, that actually evolves itself? So now you go to CryptoKitties and you're seeing what's happening in Axie Infinity. I mean, they have traits, they have combinations, they have war, they have games. Right. And you can start to apply different principles in sort of how can we actually create different kinds of NFTs and then evolve better ones. Yeah. And so there's work that's been done already in Autodesk. I don't know if you're familiar with Autodesk, but it's generative design. So, and they've done this in designing new kind of molecules, the proteins. You'll say, okay, well, here's a fitness function. Here's the outcome we want. Can we combine a million generations and produce something that solves this problem? And so I'm I said, this is the way to go. So, and the Active Earth Foundation, or the Open Earth Foundation, I say, we're using this to actually design principles of verification in issuing NFTs. And it's really a codification of the scientific method, basically. It's when they call about active inferencing and Bayesian mechanics, it's really about predictions, and you're making predictions about outcomes, and then you're studying your error term. And then you say, okay, given the evidence, our prior evidence and our observations, what is the thing what is the best model that fits that? and we can document that, put that on the blockchain, and anyone can look at it. So that's best practice at that time. So when you're doing energy or accounting or your environmental accounting, there's so much bogus stuff going on here that you say, no, this is actually the best understanding we have at that, and that NFT is useful to verifying that particular claim. And therefore, we create a new asset class, trade that asset class. So you see, people are talking about natural assets now, and Earth as an asset. So that's very much the space that I'm interested in. And I think we're seeing the evolution of NFTs becoming more biological, evolving. And so it's not just creating a market, you're creating a niche you're designing a niche that has certain characteristics that you want to have. And because we're very concerned about preserving the Amazon, I mean, our biosphere is at risk. So how the hell do we create incentive structures and solutions that maintain the parameters, the boundary conditions of living things, and also allow people to prosper? And so that's a complex solution space, at least. But it is within the domain of being able to apply these techniques. So I'm beyond evangelical on this. I corner people. This is the way to go. So that's really sort of the essence of my talk. And we're designing things, applying it. There are a number of areas in which we're applying this: how to create resilient communities, how to create new kind of asset classes and combinations of asset classes that achieve certain kinds of outcomes, and identify those traits that are most important to moving into a new level of optimality.
Thanks for diving in deeply. You're the type of person that it'd be fun to sit down with for a long.
This is not a short conversation.
Explore so many things. We're glad that you're going to be with us. Since we're going to be doing this in Times Square, let me ask you this before we wrap up our conversation.
Sure.
If you could get everybody's attention, that's at NFT NYC, and you could give a message for the Open Earth Foundation and a message for MIT Research, and you're able to kind of speak on behalf of these two organizations you're a director at, and you had all the billboards, and you knew all the 5,000 attendees are looking and listening, what might be the message from these two organizations?
I think that DeFi is absolutely essential for moving our economy from a fossil economy to one of a sustainable economy. And the innovation is going to come in DeFi. It's going to come through the next generation metaverse, and it should be designed on principles of living things. That's my message, because we can't be against Earth. We have to be within nature. And right now we've created these negative externalities that really are threatening the very viability of the planet. I mean, it's no joke. So and what can accelerate that change faster than anything else? I think the rate of innovation is happening in the whole DeFi space. And what I see is just breathtaking. And I'm very enthusiastic about that. It's just the level of innovation. Yeah, some of it's totally crazy. It's overhyped. It's you get all the noise that goes with it. But underneath that, there's some really astonishing kinds of innovations that are taking place that you just don't see in the traditional sectors.
Well, I think the approach of let's do this in a natural, organic way. Let's remember that, all things are living. We create things that have life.
And that's our first principles. We have to do it on those principles. That's my message, really, that I try to.
And I also just thank you on behalf of the community of bringing a different message to the community, and the way that you're focused on doing good for the Earth with the Open Earth Foundation. And it's just a good thing. So I look forward to
very much. I really appreciate it. It's great talking to you.
It was. And for anybody that's watching us live or sees the archive, thank you for your attention. My name's Ian Utilli. I'm one of the co-producers of NFT NYC, and